All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Glad you're with us. Friday, December 19th, 8 a.m. right here on Jocks. We have a lot more to get to. We spent a lot of time on Alabama, Oklahoma, but as we mentioned earlier, bowl games begin today at 10 a.m. Kennesaw State, Western Michigan in the Myrtle Beach Bowl. 1:30 on ESPN, Memphis versus NC State in the Union Home Mortgage Gasparilla Bowl. And obviously, playoff games coming up tomorrow, not just tonight. So we have a lot to cover. We have a lot to get to. One that we want to get to tomorrow night, 6:30 p.m. on TNT, HBO Max, and True. Who's going to HBO Max to watch this game?
Youngsters
Like,
that ain't paying for cable.
but they're paying for HBO Max.
I mean, they you could just get that up right off the top, pay for it through them and nothing else.
Okay, I would love to know the number on that. How many eyeballs HBO Max has on this game, and just see. Catie Harper covers James Madison, a team that I think has an opportunity to surprise some people in some different areas. I think physically up front, the offensive line gives you a little bit more than a lot of people would anticipate in this spot. The other side is where I'm a little bit concerned, Catie. This defensive front holding up against a really good Oregon offensive line, finalist for the Joe Moore Award, and a solid rushing attack. What do you anticipate happening when JMU's on defense to try to offset a little bit of that?
See, watching JMU all year, their defense has kind of been the difference maker throughout the season. The offense at times has had its struggles and had its up and down moments, but this defense has held strong throughout. And I think JMU is looking to hopefully get one of those pieces back with Emmanuel Bush is listed as probable on the latest availability report. And if they get him back at nose tackle, his size is something that definitely helps them out, especially going up against a group like Oregon's offensive line.
And it feels like back to the JMU offense, Alonzo Barnett a little bit kind of ad lib, but that doesn't always end well. How much of that do you think this staff wants in this game, needs in this? You're going to need some of it because it's a defense that's going to create pressures. It's kind of what Dan Lanning's always done. But how much do they want him more in the pocket, maybe playing within the offense as opposed to be on the perimeter trying to move around?
I think they may actually want him moving around a little bit. When we talked with Bob Chesney after the Sun Belt Championship game when JMU beat Troy, he really felt that some of the difference-making plays in that game was when Alonzo Barnett kind of moved away and got out of the pocket and tucked it and ran. And I think this offense has started to look better at times the further Barnett gets away from his knee injury that he suffered at the end of last season. When he kind of has that ability to make defenses have to prepare for him to run, that is when this offense really kind of, calms down and looks more the part of what it should be talent-wise. But I do think that this game needs Barnett to pass, and that probably means staying in the pocket a little bit more and just kind of reading the defense. So I think that may be one that they try and have him stay in the pocket, but if that's something that isn't working by the end of it, I don't think they have too much of a concern if he needs to tuck it and run.
Catie Harper is joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline, talking a little bit of JMU as they take on Oregon in a game that not a lot of people feel like JMU can have extended success. Oregon a 20.5-point favorite in this game. What's an aspect of this team that you think people are missing on going into this matchup with Oregon that either they just don't know about, haven't seen enough of, where you think JMU may be able to find some success?
I think that they may look at JMU's running back Wayne Knight, and they may get his stats obviously show that he is a very, very good running back. But if you're watching a P4 team and seeing their size, if you look at Wayne Knight and see him listed at 5'7", people may just kind of overlook him and think that he's not built to run against an Oregon defense. I've seen him bounce off a lot of guys this year against Troy. He had a 73-yard touchdown where contact first came at the line of scrimmage, and he still bounced off and ran for 73 yards. So I think he's someone that I think could maybe catch some people off guard just because they maybe don't expect a guy his size to be as good and as sturdy as he is.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. And you look at this JMU defense, you mentioned up front, they've been able to cause some problems. It's also a quarterback in Dante Moore that has been exceptional pushing the ball down the field. How does the secondary match up to what Oregon's going to be able to throw out, and potentially some extra targets coming back for the Ducks?
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be a group that's tested, but I do think the secondary at JMU is actually playing a lot better than they were at the beginning of the season. One of their corners, Justin Eaglin, has really come into his own. JMU wasn't getting a lot of interceptions at the beginning portion of the season, and Eaglin, especially of late, has really kind of become a ball hawk for them and has found his way to some big interceptions, including a pick six. On top of that, Jacob Thomas at safety is about as, you know, calm and present on that defense as you can get. He's one of the two team captains alongside linebacker Trent Hendrick, and there's a reason he's in that position, and it's because he is very steady when he steps out on the field and plays. And then one player I always talk about in the secondary is nickel DJ Barksdale. He's kind of like Wayne Knight on the defensive side of the ball, where he is a very small guy, but his closing speed is very, very impressive. He tends to be in the right place at the right time, and while he's listed as a nickel, and this staff has really started to trust him more, playing some true corner and going up against teams' number one guys, and he's done it well. And everything we've heard about DJ Barksdale this year is just how good he is at tracking the ball when it's in the air, and just his intelligence of knowing where he needs to be at the right time. So it's a secondary that obviously is going to be tested with Dante Moore and their wide receivers, but it's a group that definitely has gotten better throughout the season.
Looking at it, it feels like they have the right recipe. Like if you watch the games where Oregon struggled a bit, like in the Iowa game, probably the best example. Iowa's recipe is very similar to that of James Madison, and it's slowing the tempo down, slowing the pace, grinding the game to a halt. They want to win this. If JMU wins the game, it needs to be like 10-7, and they need to score on a 12-play, 8-minute drive and punch it into the end zone with 40 seconds remaining. It feels like their style of play lends to a possible upset. Can you get on board with that?
I think I could. I've seen JMU a lot this year really control the time of possession. And I was actually talking with my dad about kind of this game last night and how it could play out. And we both kind of talked about the fact that JMU's offense needs to make sure that it's on the field, because this defense can compete and this defense can hold opponents to low-scoring games. But if they're put in a position where the defense is on the field consistently for long stretches of time, if they're getting put in, poor yardage situations after a turnover, that's when this game could probably get out of control for JMU. But if JMU is able to control the time of possession like they have at points this season, that can really kind of help them keep this game maybe a lot closer than some outlets and national media members have maybe thought it could be.
Catie, we appreciate you taking some time and kind of filling us in on a couple of things that our listeners may not know about JMU. A lot of folks around our ways hadn't watched a bunch of their games. I think it's going to be an interesting matchup. I think there's some ways that can be problematic. Thanks for joining us this morning and kind of helping us fill the gaps.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Catie Harper joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. She covers JMU. Give us a little bit of insight there, Greg, as to how they may be able to find some ways to be a problem for Oregon. She's a little more confident in the defensive line than the offensive line. I think the offensive line offers pretty good physicality when you watch them, the way they operate. Now, how they operate on offense, there's been some leakage at times, but I don't think that's always just offensive linemen getting beat. It's just kind of some of the read nature, slow-paced, how they either get the ball to the back or keep the ball and throw it. How will they hold up at the line of scrimmage in this game? That's where everybody thinks they'll be dominated. Do you think that's the case?
No, I think they can hang. I mean, the first thing I did when starting to prep this game was I wanted to go and look at the size of the defensive line. I mean, I feel like when you think about G5 outfits, a lot of the times there's a pretty significant discrepancy in the length along the offensive and defensive line and the sheer size along the offensive and defensive line. JMU's got some guys that are big bodies. They got a guy's 310. They got a guy's 348. They got a guy's 301. Their best defensive lineman, 6'4", 270. Like they're a little stouter up front than I think most people would imagine. So I think they can hold up in the run game. First thing I'm watching in this game is when Oregon has the ball for the very first time. Remember how when Bryce Young led Alabama team played against Cincinnati, and that Cincinnati D-line was stout, right? But that offensive line, they completely just took the wind out of the sails by just grinding that game right down the field. I mean, it was like handoff 4, handoff 5, handoff 4, handoff 5. It was just one after another, and eventually the dam broke, right? And that's what I think. I'll be real curious if the plan for Oregon's comparable to that, because if they can run the ball, it's going to be tough sledding, I think, for JMU to win this game. But if JMU holds up and can stop the run and limit the yards per carry to, say, 3.5 or less, I think they got a real shot of making it very interesting. It's just, can they make it interesting for 60 minutes? I'm not confident in that. I think Oregon eventually pulls away, but I wouldn't be surprised if JMU battles for the first half, maybe in the first 3 quarters, and ends up ultimately covering the number.
Yeah, I could see it as well. And not a lot of people are giving them that chance to be able to go and do that.
Do you like their D-line? Like, I mean, you look at them, like you've watched them. What do you think about their ability to kind of anchor? Like, I think they're pretty stout for a G5 football team.
They are, but this is a good offensive line too. You know, if this was South Carolina, you know, or if this was, I'm trying to think of some P5. It shouldn't be hard for me to think of P5 O-lines that have underwhelmed us this year. But that would easily be one. You know, if this was LSU, I would have no confidence in them pushing this group around. The Oregon group's a pretty good group, and so I think we could be staring down the barrel of what you just mentioned with that Cincinnati game, Greg. We thought that Cincinnati D-line was pretty stout. Like, they had a couple dudes that were probably going to be in the NFL, and then it was very different when they got out there. Also, don't know if Oregon's going to try to go right at them. Like, it's not like Oregon lives between the tackles either. So it's going to be – I think it's going to be a fun matchup. I think physically the way they get after it, I think the offensive line is going to be okay. I don't think they're going to be just overwhelmed. Now, you know, with some of the play action and the pullers and, you know, pull protection and some of the stuff for JMU's offense very slow developing. And I get it. They want to let Barnett kind of do his thing. They want to give him options to run the ball at times. You know, they want to try to visually deceive you. I don't think that's great against this defense that's going to attack. I think they need more deliberate, quick-hitting plays that either get the ball to or out of the hands, to the back, out of the hands of the quarterback on a more consistent basis if they're going to find yards. That's what I see being a little bit troublesome for this team.
Yeah. And that's, I think, the biggest concern for me now, too, for JMU, and you referenced the secondary. Oregon's now at full strength at wide receiver. DeCorian Moore is back. Gary Bryant is back. It's sounding like Evan Stewart will be up. He's been practicing. So if he's a go, that's just three guys now that they did not have in the final 2 or 3 games of the season that are difference makers. And I don't know if JMU has the bodies to both stop the run and defend the pass and win one-on-ones on the outside. Like, that's my biggest concern, is that now that Oregon's healthy, I think you're going to have to kind of pick your poison and roll the dice, and that's not a great recipe for JMU's defense. I don't think JMU's offense is going to have a lot of success. I don't think you can run it down Oregon's throat. I don't think they're going to be able to get Wayne Knight out there very often. They're going to have to do some pin and pull stuff. They're going to have to do a lot of leverage blocking. They're going to have to do a bunch of stuff like that, and I'm not confident about it. So I don't know about you. Like, are you confident in their O-line being able to get a little movement?
I don't know about movement. It's a good front defensively. But what you will get, this is similar to what we're going to talk about with Bama, Oklahoma. You will get a defense that's on the move on a fairly regular basis. I go back to those quick hitting plays, whether it's a quarterback inside zone instead of a quarterback counter. Just doesn't take as long to develop. The downhill quick hitting run play, even like a zone cut, a play that looks like it's designed to go off outside left guard, but you're planning on that cutback happening outside the right tackle, and bam, it gets north and south in a hurry. Those are the things I think they need, because you can catch this Oregon front on the move just a little bit, similar to what you can with Oklahoma. And we'll talk about this after the break, but I think Alabama has to at least try it, Greg. I think they have to try to go right at this defense. And I understand you're not going to move them. I understand you haven't had a ton of success with it. I just think the effort of it could open some different things up. And I want to talk about that on the other side. Before we do, tell our listeners about Bromberg's.
Well, Bromberg's, it's not too late. I'll be going to Bromberg's next week to go and secure a beautiful gift for my wife and my loved ones. And I haven't had a chance to go yet. Football's been busy, naturally. But it's okay. Bromberg's is there to make sure that even at the last minute, they can get you something beautiful. So go and check them out. They've been celebrating Christmas with this community since 1836. They've helped make Christmas wishes come true for generations. And with complimentary gift wrap in their signature silver box, you'll give a gift that they'll treasure forever. So visit Bromberg's in Mountain Brook and or the Summit. You can also shop online at brombergs.com.
All right, when we come back, why Alabama has to at least attempt a north-south run attack against Oklahoma. Next on Jocks. Before we move on with this segment, Texas football announces yesterday Will Muschamp will be the new defensive coordinator.
Wow.
We're back. We are back. Hook 'em.
By the way, how many times has Will Muschamp been like, I'm just done coaching. I can't do it. Like I love where I'm at. I like the responsibility I have as an analyst. Like I'm done. I'm not doing it anymore. Like I'm so happy. Like every time I see him, and I've known Will forever. Like that's my boy. And every time I see him, he's like, dude, you couldn't pay me enough to get back into coaching. And here he is again. He's like, I mean, the guy refuses to go away. He just wants back in. He goes away for a bit and comes back in. Goes away for a bit, comes back in. Like he'll be doing this until he's 92. Just out in.
Some of these guys just can't help it. They can't help themselves. He's one of them. And
has he not said to you the same stuff?
Multiple times.
Oh my gosh. I love him. I love Will Muschamp.
No, I mean, it's whether it's the lake house he had in South Carolina or his kid playing at Vanderbilt, like he's always been kind of anxious to go do the next thing and then right back into it.
Yeah.
Right back into coaching.
I'll say this, though, like the Kwiatkowski firing surprised me.
That's where I wanted to go with this. It's not as much the surprise of Will Muschamp being the DC. Greg, I didn't leave the season thinking that Kwiatkowski had a bad year or was incapable or didn't do a good job. That part really interests me as to why that actually took place.
I think it has to do with the fact that Kwiatkowski's identity for a very long time was quarters. No? He ran quarters like 75% of the time. And this year they, in an effort to become more multiple, they kind of abandoned what he has done traditionally. There was a lot more cover 3. It's kind of what they became this year. And they made a lot of mistakes. And they busted a lot. Communication was substandard. They gave up big plays. The pass rush was good, but it should have been better given their personnel. I think it's kind of like, all right, he's been there 4 years now. Maybe it's time for a fresh start, or 5 years now. Maybe it's time for a fresh start, maybe a new voice. And then I also think like Pete Kwiatkowski's hardcore now. Like he is a grinder. I love him. I think he's a really, really kind of a throwback coach. And I wonder if just kind of the hard coaching, led the guys playing a little tight, and that's what led to mistakes potentially. I don't know. I haven't talked to Sark. I have no idea what the reasoning was. It surprised me a bit because I think Kwiatkowski's a really good coach. They just had a down year, and I don't think their secondary played very well at times with communication. And that's a direct reflection of coaching, is if you're busting a lot of coverages, does that fall back to the coordinator? Probably.
Crazy to think about it. It's where we are right now. 8:23. Friday, December 19th, right here on Jocks. Listen online, jocksfm.com. The app is in your app store, iPhone, Android. You can go download it there. Always listen on the go. Watch us live on YouTube each and every morning. Search Jocks945, or just tell your home smart speaker to enable the Jock skill.
Bill Smith Buick GMC is the GMC Dealer of the Year, the national champion of GMC dealers. Just take the short drive up to Coleman. You'll understand why. You have just 11, 12 days left on the calendar to go and get a new ride in the 2025 year. And right now is the best possible time to go and take advantage of end-of-the-year savings. You need to go and do it right now. A GMC Sierra 2500 Denali Ultimate, $97,530 is the list price. You could take $12,000 off the sticker, get that vehicle for $85,500. Deals like that keep people coming back. That's why they sell more vehicles than anyone in the Southeast. That's why they're able to give you discounts like nobody else can. It's amazing what they're able to do for you when you take the short drive to go see Andy Cole and Jonathan Yeager right up there in Coleman off I-65, exit 310 and Highway 31. So go see them, or you can shop online. Have it delivered right to your driveway at Bill Smith Buick, GMC.com.
Okay, so we look at this Alabama offense, Greg. I think there needs to at least be an attempt to go right at this Oklahoma defense. There have been a select few plays that teams have run directly at them where the loop man on a twist or the replacing linebacker on a stunt was not home, was not there. What they take advantage of is, I think, not only maybe you being athletic enough or just flat good enough to be able to trade some of these things out that they're going to do, but also they don't trust your eye discipline and maybe your emotional discipline, your physical discipline to not chase defenders. And a lot of times these offensive linemen get in trouble by chasing guys. So if we have a zone play to the right and my man disappears to the left, well, when I follow him or I retrack back to him, that linebacker's flowing over the top or the loop man's coming back over the top, I'm not home. Or I'm facing the opposite direction that the play's going and I'm not able to physically make the adjustment and be able to go pick up my man. It's why when you watch Oklahoma's defense, the amount of players that are just sitting there waiting to make a play, it's incredible. And those are the reasons that it happens. But when you do catch them and you do physically have that discipline to say, I'm not chasing that guy, stick with my fundamentals here, stick with the foundation of the play, and you climb up to that backer or you're able to wall off that looper coming around, you can open up some nice holes. I think you have to at least take the chance, gamble a little bit on finding a couple of those because of what it could slow down, because of how it could calm this defense down to an extent. And do you know when the first handoff was for Alabama and the last time they played? Like the time in the game?
I do not.
3 minutes in the first quarter. That was the first time that Ty Simpson turned and handed the ball to a running back.
Yeah. It's got to be quick hitters, though. Right downhill.
It's fair, but at the same time, too, you got to. Do you agree that Alabama at least has to take the chance of trying to make a couple of these kind of plays go?
100%.
All right, he's out.
They
Sorry.
have no choice but to do that.
All right, Greg's got to get back to get up, so he'll do that. When we come back, Teddy Lehman, former Oklahoma great, will join us to give us his thoughts on maybe why the Alabama offense could have success against this Oklahoma defense. Before we do that, do not forget about our friends at Train. The cold is already here. Don't get caught in it. Schedule your system checkup now from a Train comfort specialist. Train has been recognized 11 consecutive years as America's most trusted HVAC brand and our exclusive home comfort partner here at Jocks. Visit train.com to find a comfort specialist near you. Teddy Lehman, former Oklahoma great, joins us next right here on Jocks. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you tuning in. 8:30 Friday, December 19th. Going to focus more in on this Alabama-Oklahoma matchup tonight in the college football playoff, round one. First, got to tell you about my friend Gusty Goulis and the Gusty Goulis Group. If you're looking for a new home in Central Alabama, do not forget about Gusty Goulis Group. 205-542-1996, brokered by eXp Realty, serves more than 3,000 home buyers and sellers in the greater Birmingham area. Gusty Goulis has helped family members of mine. He can help you. He knows what inventory is coming available. And maybe you just go to GustyGoulsGroup.com, see the button at the top right-hand corner of the page, smash that, very little information, tell you what they think they can get for your home. Over 850 five-star Google reviews. Search it for yourself. Not a head coach in the Big Ten in the college football playoff that's currently at number one, but just Google Gusty Goulis Group and see what he can do for you. Over 850 five-star Google reviews. Gusty Goulis Group, 205-542-1996, or go to GustyGoulsGroup.com today. Teddy Lehman joins us now on the Higginbotham Hotline. Excited to have him join the show. And I owe him an apology because at the Oklahoma Breakdown live show last night, attempted to give him a hard time for being asked multiple times to come on the show with no response, only to find out that I had the wrong cell phone number. So, Teddy, thank you very much for hopping on with us today. And again, I apologize.
No problem. I'm just curious, was there a bunch of like hidden deep animosity toward me that you were keeping under the surface that I just didn't know about?
I was just like, what did I do to this guy? They have me on their show, and it always seems like it goes well, and I feel like we have fun. And it's just like, he ain't coming on my show, I guess. So whatever. I told Gabe, I'm like, I'm going to go at Teddy here. I said, get ready. He didn't even know what I was talking about. He just kind of laughed. But no animosity, especially now. But we appreciate you being here. I have said that Alabama has to at least try to run directly at this Oklahoma defense to attempt to slow down some of the chaos. Do you agree with that? And is there any chance you would give them any sort of success with that if they were to attempt it?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that they've got to figure out a way to. If you go back to the first matchup, and it's kind of been a problem for them here down the stretch, a bunch of third and longs, just bad down and distance situations for them. And that was definitely the case in our first matchup. So they have to get to some better spots on third downs to where, you know, they're less predictable for Venables to come after them. And, you know, you got to run the ball somehow. You've got to be able to generate some forward momentum on first and second down. You know, extension of the run game, pushing the ball, you know, to some tunnel screens, some bubbles to their playmakers, or going with the run. And hey, you know the run game is good as anyone. So I'll trust your judgment on what you think the best way to attack Oklahoma might be. And you know, if you go back to the first game, and even whenever Oklahoma has shut opponents down in the run game, there's been some areas where they will give up some decent little chunk plays, and I think that's kind of what Alabama has to be hoping for. I think it'll be difficult just to, you know, series by series, new set of downs to just easily be able to chew up some yards, but I do think that they'll have the potential to hit on a handful of plays here and there that can, you know, move the chains and then have some impact on how Venables calls the game.
Teddy Lehman, former Oklahoma great. Now you can catch him on the Oklahoma Breakdown with Gabe Eichert, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. They do a great job. The Oklahoma offense is one that's been a weird study, a weird watch this year. I don't really think there's enough of a foundation where you just say, hey, we're going to go back to this or we can go do this. But where do you think they can find success against Alabama's defense?
Well, you know, we've talked about it quite a bit on the podcast that we really like if they attack the perimeter a little bit. You know, it's something that I just, for whatever reason, I don't think enough teams in college football do it to where, you know, formation adjustments to where you force the corners and, you know, if you've got smaller safeties or guys that you want to get some of your double teams comboed up to, like testing the perimeter and making those smaller defensive backs be a part of the run fit and making them tackle, making them play physically, making them have to get off blocks and make plays. I think there's some areas where we can do that, and especially if Xavier Robinson is as healthy as we're hoping. I mean, he hadn't been on the availability report. He took a shot in that first Alabama game out in the flat on a swing pass, and he was hobbled for, several weeks towards the end of the season. He got a little bit better, but still just wasn't right. And hopefully he's back close to 100%. And if that's the case, I think that they can find some stuff.
We'll see. John Mateer, what does his role need to be in this game? Oklahoma quarterback. Does he need to sort of press to help find explosives? Does it need to be lean on his legs with more of a designed run game package? We know kind of what he's capable of, Teddy, but what do you view that he needs to be, has to be for Oklahoma to get this win tonight?
Well, it's interesting for me because we've seen a couple of different versions of Mateer this year. If you go back before the hand surgery, he was much more aggressive. He was better running the football. He was more decisive in his throws where he would push the ball down the field. And since he's come back, he seemed like he's played tight, a little unsure, a little hesitant. And, maybe you can just attribute that to, playing tougher and tougher competition down the stretch. I think there's a fine line between, being risky and being reckless. And, sometimes when you're risky, you're aggressive, you're seeing it, and you're taking some calculated risks to fit a ball into a tight window, to maybe pull it down in a situation where it's going to be tough to pick up the first down, but you sell out and go get it. I think the best John Mateer, and you said this last night, he's a football player. He's a gunslinger. He's not a guy that's going to stand there in the pocket with perfect form and technique and footwork and just dice you up. He's best when he's playing some backyard football, and I think that comes whenever he's confident. So we can't turn the ball over. We know that. We know the formula. Defense, special teams, offense, take what you can get, hopefully hit on an explosive here or there, and try and find a way to get to, 20, 24 points, and you feel like you got a really good chance to win the football game. But, some of that forces him, I think, to limit what he wants to do and what he's best at. So, I guess what I'm saying is the material we need is just a free, confident playmaker that goes out there and does his thing. It doesn't really feel constrained by the play call or the situation in the game or, the overarching formula that we're trying to win with. He's a guy who just needs to go make the play whenever it's there. And I feel like all these other factors are weighing on him a little bit. I don't know if any of that makes sense, but he just needs to go be a ball player. That's what his DNA is.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. And you're not going to take it away even if you try to, no matter how you call a game. Teddy Lehman of the Oklahoma Breakdown joining us now on the Higginbotham Hotline. Whose role or what individual is most important for the Oklahoma defense in this matchup tonight against Alabama?
Well, it might be one of the guys that just, for whatever reason, doesn't get talked about a whole lot. There's always a lot of conversation about the defensive line, the interior guys, R. Mason Thomas on the edge, Taylor Wine on the edge, the backers and Kip Lewis and their impact on the game when they're blitzing or attacking the run game. But our two corners, Cortland Gilroy and Eli Bowen, have been excellent this year. And Cortland Gilroy, the freshman, true freshman, he's gotten better and better week after week. And, like the wide receiver groups, it doesn't matter who you're playing, whether they're last in the conference or first in the conference, you're going to see 2 or 3 guys every week that are NFL caliber wide receivers, and he's answered the call. He's been fantastic. And if I'm Kalen DeBoer, and especially after reviewing the first matchup and kind of how things have gone down the stretch, I'm saying Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard, those guys have to go win the football game for us, and we have to push it down the field to them a little bit more and at least have that threat of the deep ball to hopefully slow Venables down a little bit, bringing pressure, because he is going to heat. My expectation is he's going to build off of what they did in the first matchup and try and heat Ty Simpson up. And I think they're going to try and push the ball down the field and some one-on-ones, some fades, some comeback routes on the sideline, and try and let those guys go win. So I think we have to be great at corner.
And that's going to be tested because we talked about this last night. Ryan Williams, if you get first half SEC championship game Ryan Williams, it can be a problem. It could be an issue. If he is going, how does that change what Oklahoma does defensively? If the quick game to him can turn into those explosives that he can give you a couple of those plays like we saw in Atlanta a week ago.
Well, on defense, you're always robbing Peter to pay Paul. If you're going to bring pressure, you're forcing the secondary to cover a lot of grass. If you're going to sit back and give the secondary help and keep some safeties over the top, well, you're taking some rush away. You're giving the quarterback a little more time to dissect things. So the key, it's always the key, but especially if you're giving some things up, is you got to be able to take some risks and bring some pressure and surprise the quarterback and keep him guessing a little bit. And I think that's what Venables will do a little bit anyway, but you've got to be a little bit more selective and pick your moments whenever you're going to bring all out pressure and leave those corners on an island. But yeah, you're right, man. And that's the one thing that worries you. I know a lot of Oklahoma fans are incredibly confident and they trust in and love the way that this defense plays, and I do too. But the reality is, if Alabama gets 70 snaps on offense, you can defend them 65 of those snaps perfectly, and the other 5, Ryan Williams or even Bernard, those playmakers can turn your lights out in just a handful of plays and go win the football game. So, that's where the real gamble is, man, and that's why I think this game is going to be so fun to watch.
I don't think there's any doubt. How do you think it ends up? How do you think it plays out? Who takes this game, and maybe how does it play out? Is it the rock fight that we think we're going to get tonight?
It's really hard for me to envision another scenario, because these two teams, even though they have a little different methodology to get there, they're both kind of the same in how they're trying to win games. Even though Alabama's offense has much better potential than what Oklahoma's does, they're not trying to go out and score 40 points a game. They play it pretty conservative, pretty tight to the vest. They just do it through the pass instead of the traditional, run at 3 out of 5 snaps and try and get you to commit and pick up first downs, move the chains, run the clock. They try and do it through the pass. And, Oklahoma obviously leans heavily on defense and special teams. I think that's what's going to happen. Part of me feels like there's a chance that because they're at home, if Oklahoma can somehow find some success early in the football game, maybe opening drive, take it down the field and punch one in, go up 7-0, force a turnover or force a punt, get a big return by Satania, and take a 2-score lead, and that place just erupts, that there's a chance that maybe they could, get out and push this thing to a nice victory. But, it's hard to envision this game not being whoever has the ball last has a chance to go win or tie the football game. Low scoring, that Indiana-Ohio State game, I think at 13-10, it may not be that low scoring, but I have a hard time seeing either team getting into the 30s. So I would say I'm picking like 2017 Oklahoma.
There you go. Teddy, great stuff, man. Thanks for having me last night. Great time at the live show. Awesome crowd, man. I had no idea that you'd have 500 people outside that couldn't even get in to an 1,800 capacity seat arena. Man, that was pretty cool to be there and be a part of that.
The crazy part about it is, like, right until 30 minutes before the show or an hour before the show, me and Gabe were like, we don't know if we're going to be doing a podcast for our family and friends or if people are actually going to show up to this thing. And they showed up in huge numbers. It was great, man. And we appreciate you guys for showing up and hitting it with us. That was fun.
It was a blast. Look forward to catching up soon, man. I'll see you over there tonight.
All right, brother. Have fun.
There you go. Teddy Lehman, former Oklahoma great linebacker, joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline, talking a little bit about tonight's college football playoff matchup between Oklahoma and Alabama. It is game day here in Oklahoma. Game day every day for you at Game Day Men's Health. If you need help with a little bit of sleep, a little bit of energy, feeling on edge, Game Day Men's Health wants to help correct this. If you need weight loss, listen, holidays are here. I feel like everywhere I go, there's cookies or cake or ice cream or some kind of treat sitting around, and we're all snacking, we're all gaining weight, not able to work out as much because the schedules are crazy. Game Day Men's Health wants to help get you back on track. They can do it for you now by going to GameDayMen'sHealth.com, sign up for the free consultation, and see what they can do for you. With that, free PSA test, free testosterone test, get your baseline health, and show you what they can do to get you back on track. Save 10% with any of those programs when you mention Mac and Cube in the morning. Holistic approach to health and wellness, open now in Trustville. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com now and see what they can do for you. All right, more of a Max Ball Friday next right here on Jocks. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 8:50 Friday, December 19th, right here on Jocks. Appreciate you being with us. Max Ball Friday, and it begins early, right as we go off the air today, 10 a.m. College football, the Myrtle Beach Bowl, Kennesaw State, Western Michigan. Could end up being two 10-win teams in that bowl game. 1:30 on ESPN, Memphis and NC State. And then 7 o'clock tonight, Alabama, Oklahoma. Obviously, the playoffs not just going today. This is going to be a jam-packed weekend of college football playoff action. GMAC, we hadn't spent a ton of time on some of the other playoff matchups that we're going to get this weekend, and want to dial in on just a few of those and kind of get your thoughts. Your game, we'll spend some more time on it next hour as Stanford Steve joins us in 9 minutes. But what kind of has the majority of your – I'll just lay this out for you this way. This is super ground floor, elementary vanilla, but I think the quarterback who makes the least mistakes probably wins your game tomorrow. But the way I want to ask the question is this: would you agree with me? And if so, why or why not? I don't think either one of these teams want to put this game in their quarterback's hands.
No, I think that's perfectly fair. I mean, I do think Miami's pretty confident in Carson Beck. And I think rightfully, because if you look at how he's played, I mean, really starting with the SMU game, I know he'd had a bad interception in overtime in that game. He played pretty good football in that game, man. Like, he was putting it where it needed to be. I mean, he threw some really nice balls in that game. I mean, he was really cutting it loose. So the last 5 games, man, he's playing at a pretty dang high level, dude. I mean, he's really throwing it. So that being said, I think Miami is more comfortable putting it in their quarterback's hands than A&M is, probably rightfully. But also, I think that in a perfect world, Miami probably wants to win it with the run game and their defense, because I still think the path of least resistance against A&M is to run the football and catch them out of a gap from time to time. They get out of the gap now, and you can hit it. You got to be patient in the run game, and you're going to have to make some guys miss in the backfield, but you can hit it, and that could be really important.
Yep. I'd agree with that, and I didn't really mean it from the standpoint of Carson Beck's not capable or they lack confidence. I just feel like against that defense on the road, Shannon Dawson not going to lean into that part of his offense early and for 4 quarters.
No.
You kind of want to see how that thing goes. And, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, because I think Colin Klein, if he can, wants to try to take the bulk of the work away from Marcel Reed in this game. You're going to need him either way. You're going to need both these quarterbacks either way, no matter what. But I'm just curious as to how much of it can they remove, because it's a A&M ground game that has been there at times, kind of disappeared at times. Miami ground game that's been pretty solid, but 2 great defensive lines that probably aren't going to give up a ton on the ground. So I'm just interested to see where it goes, how it goes for these 2 clubs and how it plays out, because I don't know if they want the quarterbacks to be what decides these 2 football games, mainly because of the defenses that you're going to get and how those 2 operate.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's perfectly fair. I think both teams want to win it on defense. I think both defenses are great, by the way. Like, I like both defenses a lot. I think it's going to be really, really important for both offensive lines to play well. I think a lot of it, too, Miami's a little more vanilla. Like, they'll blitz, but it's basically like field pressure with their nickel. Like, they want to bring 5. That's kind of what they are. But if you look at A&M, it's a little different level. I mean, you got a lot of stuff, a bunch of different fronts, a bunch of different looks. Miami is not as complex. So I think that's probably a good thing that you have such a veteran quarterback in Carson Beck for a game like this, because he's kind of seen it all. Like, there's nothing he hasn't seen in college football. His ability to diagnose could be really big as well. Whereas I think with Marcel Reed, it's like, just go be an athlete. You know what I mean? Just go let your instincts take you where you need to go. Like, you don't need to necessarily play quarterback in this game. Like, go be a football player. And if that requires you taking off, by all means, go. Totally trust you. Your best work's done on scrambles anyways. So I think it's 2 very different messages to the quarterback here. Carson needs to play quarterback, and Marcel needs to play football. And that's a pretty simple way of kind of tying it down.
Yep. It's going to be a fun matchup, man. I think I'm most excited about that game than any game this weekend. Because there's so many massive strengths that could show up and decide the game for both those teams. It's going to be a good one. We're going to have a good one tonight. 3 college football playoff games tomorrow. We have not even taken a deep dive into all 3. We'll do that with Stanford Steve when we come back on the other side. A lot more to go with one more hour of show. I'm live in Norman, Greg live in College Station, getting you set for round 1 of the college football playoffs. For more of it, keep it locked right here on Jocks, JocksFM.com, the Jocks app. Watch live on YouTube. Search Jocks945. More of a Max Ball Friday after this.